flea flicker to get the night started. Downfield looking for Godwin, into his hands, and guess which dogs are barking?
Folks, good news is we do have a game. I know that I made that video last night talking about how the game could potentially be canceled. It was a real possibility up until Mississippi State got on the plane today. They ended up actually getting their flight delayed a little bit. They were supposed to get into Atlanta sometime around 1 or 2. They actually ended up getting in sometime around 3:30 or 4 this afternoon, and they took a bus from Atlanta to Athens. They are there. They're in Athens. The equipment truck is there. We have a game tomorrow, barring something crazy happening. But 100% Mississippi State is in Athens. So 7:30 game tomorrow, Mississippi State against Georgia. Know that Mississippi State did fall below the 53-man threshold. They traveled with 49 scholarship players. So the caveat to that is you can fall below the 53 minimum roster, but there are certain position requirements that have to be met as far as numbers per position. Mississippi State was able to meet those. They decided that they wanted to play, even though they couldn't meet the 53-man minimum. They have 49, plus their walk-ons and everybody else. So they wanted to play. So kudos to Mississippi State for actually wanting to play this game and making the trip to Athens. They very easily could have said no, and it just would have been a no contest. Game would have been canceled, and that was it. So looking forward to it, definitely excited. Last I looked, Georgia was a 24-point favorite in this game. Don't know that that's changed, and I don't know that that necessarily matters. 24 is kind of one of those weird numbers that most bettors like to stay away from, unless it's just a terrible opponent, because this game could easily be a 20-point game or a 21-point game instead of 24. So a lot of people like to stay away from that high of a number, especially when it is between two SEC schools. But that was the last line that I saw, was 24 points in favor of UGA. The other news this week, and I'm not going to make a whole topic out of this, but JT Daniels was announced the starter. He will be starting tomorrow for UGA at quarterback. I know Georgia fans are excited to see that. Let's hope that he does well. I think that this game could honestly go one of two ways for JT Daniels. He comes out and he plays terrible, and he starts the game 5 for 12 for 45 yards and throws 2 interceptions, no touchdowns, and Georgia's in a battle with Mississippi State going into the half, like another 10-7 game or something, and Kirby has to put Stetson Bennett back in there or something. And I mean, that's worst case scenario that could happen. But again, I think these are one of two scenarios that could happen for JT Daniels. That, or he comes out tomorrow and he has a good game. He goes 15 for 22 for 220 yards and 2 touchdowns, maybe 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, hopefully. If he throws an interception, not a big deal, as long as he has 2 or 3 touchdowns. I think that there is a potential that JT Daniels could come out and actually have a bigger game than that and throw for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns. But I'm not counting on that. I don't think that Kirby's just gonna plug him in there and let him loose and just go nuts. I think it's going to be a very conservative called game from Todd Monken, and they're going to give JT a lot of short, confident throws to get him in rhythm, and hopefully they turn into something. But I don't foresee them letting him throw the ball 30 or 40 times tomorrow unless we happen to fall behind or get in a shootout with Mississippi State. In either instance, though, Kirby Smart is definitely going to be able to cover up for himself. So if JT Daniels comes out and he doesn't have a good game, Kirby's going to be able to look back at all of the post-game interviews and say, hey guys, I told you so. I told you that Stetson gives us the best chance to win, and this is where JT Daniels is at. We needed to make a change. We did. Didn't work out. So Kirby will be able to cover himself that way. If JT comes out and has a great game, Kirby's also going to be able to cover himself by saying that JT's mobility wasn't there. They weren't confident in him being able to move or take a hit in a game situation. That has changed over the last 2 weeks. They now feel confident in his knee and where he's at with his mobility, and that's why they were able to let him loose, and there we go. So either way, Kirby's going to cover himself so that he doesn't get hammered in the post-game press conference and all next week and potentially for the rest of the season. So just be aware of that. This game, Mississippi State is not a very good team. Their morale is extremely low. They've had, 18 to 20 guys leave the program, opt out, transfer, whatever the case may be. Again, they have 49 scholarship players. So morale is at an all-time low. They honestly haven't looked very good. Outside of the first week when they put up record numbers as far as SEC goes, in terms of passing yards and everything else, they've essentially done absolutely nothing since then, and seemingly everybody has figured out how to stop Mississippi State on offense. They run an air raid offense. Honestly, the easiest solution is to rush 3 and drop 8, and if Mississippi State can't run the ball, well, when you're dropping 8 guys in coverage, they're not going to be able to pass either. You shut down the pass, you win the game. Maybe it's not that simple. I think it is against Mississippi State. I don't think this is going to be a very close game at all. I think it has the potential of being a tricky game for UGA, but as long as they've got everything figured out on defense, especially with the pass defense, if KJ Costello doesn't play in this game, that obviously takes a lot of pressure off. I think UGA figures out a lot of things on offense. I think they're going to run the ball. I think they're going to control the clock. I think that JT Daniels is going to have success passing. He's going to throw, like I said earlier, I think he's going to throw for 200, 220, 230 yards. A couple touchdowns, 2 or 3 would be great, and that'll make Georgia fans happy. I know I said that the spread of this game, the last time I looked, was 24 points, and that's hard to cover, but I think Georgia does actually cover. My final score prediction on this game is UGA 35, Mississippi State 9. Go Dogs. Have fun tomorrow. Night game in Athens. Hopefully wearing black jerseys. JT Daniels, the starting quarterback. It's going to be a good night. Go Dogs.